Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to all of our P.A.D members joining us for this March speaker series titled Investing in Yourself Through Your Passion. This is a 1-hour segment. We'll have roughly 10 minutes at the end for a Q&A. Feel free to use the chat feature or the Q&A feature within Zoom, though, to post any questions as they come to you during the presentation. With that, I am so excited to introduce our speaker tonight and fellow P.A.D member, Erica Blaire Roby. Erica's journey from public defender to barbecue champion is incredible, and it's clear she is truly following her passion. I'll be including a link to her full bio in the chat, but I'll leave it to Erica at this point to tell you a bit about herself and how to invest in yourself through your passion.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me. First of all, this is a huge honor and I'm really appreciative for it. I started my career as a public defender in Miami, and it was right during the biggest crash of the recession, and everybody was freezing and nobody was hiring. So it was super competitive. And at that point, I was like, I just have one shot. I gotta be able to get this job, or I'm gonna have to leave Miami and go, other places to find work. And so I went into that interview, basically like I was going for the Supreme Court. I just guns a-blazing. I gave it my all, and they hired me. And I was like, nothing could be better than this moment right now. And I practiced and I loved it. And I loved everything I did. I loved the high stakes of being in trial, especially criminal, because I felt, for me personally, that's where like the stakes were the realest. So it was something that really got me going. It got me out of bed. It got me motivated. And I loved doing that. And I always said to myself, I was like, I either want to do capital litigation or at least, get a murder trial or somewhere close, and that would mean like I had made it for my career. And so very quickly on, I ended up getting on a double attempted, and we went in there, and in Miami, they had this thing called ROC court, and that's repeat offender court. So basically you're going away forever if you get convicted in that court. And for me, the stakes were no higher. But to my horror, and this is going to sound funny, but any criminal defense attorneys out there, they know, to my horror, the man was innocent. So I was like, oh no, this is awful. And I was like, I have to do everything that I can. So I went all in, and my client at the time, he just looked over at me, and he was a young guy. And he's like, look, I know that you're trying to do everything you can for me, but if it doesn't work out in my favor, it's okay. And that just broke my heart. Like, I was like, no, you're not quitting. We're not giving up. We're doing this. And, I read, when I saw the instructions for the jury, I knew that like the guilty was at the top, and like the not guilty or the lessers was at the bottom. So when he started reading out the verdict, I locked eyes on him, and I saw his eyes go to the bottom of the page, and I just started crying. I know that's totally unprofessional, but I started crying because I knew that meant, that my guy, he was going to walk free. And sure enough, he did. And we kept in touch for a while, and he went back to school. He went to vocational school. He started doing gang outreach to help other youth. And it really was the pinnacle. And I left that trial, and I was like, I've done exactly what I needed to do. I said, where are my goals now? What do I want to do? What's going to happen? And I didn't really have an answer at that point. At that point, I was also married, so you know where this is going. And so my husband at the time said that he didn't like Miami. He wanted to move to Tampa, where he had found a dream job, and that's where he wanted to be. And he said, I've supported you this whole time, so please support me. I didn't want to do that at the time, but I thought that's what you do. You support other people in their dreams. So I gave up everything and I moved to Tampa. I had no job, no friends, no source of income. I was living at that point off of just my savings and a house sale that I had just made. But I only got, after everything, like all the expenses, houses in Miami are terrible. After everything, I only had about like 15 to 18 grand left in my bank account. And so that really kind of paralyzed me, because I was like, I I have to find work immediately. I can't really do anything. So I was applying like on Craigslist, any lawyer job, I was applying to it and everything like that. And nothing was coming in. So for me, every day was like the same day. It didn't matter if I woke up and took a shower. It didn't matter if I left the house because nobody was checking for me. Like I literally had no purpose at that time. And to be a person such as myself, as you, and probably everybody out there who's watching right now, to have a moment where like nothing's going on for you and you're a very like goal-oriented person, it is paralyzing. It is the worst feeling that you can ever have. And I was trying to find purpose. And at this point I was 30 and I couldn't find a purpose. And it seemed like every door was closing on me and I was lonely and I was by myself most of the time. And I was just wandering around this rental home. And I was just like, God, this is not what you intended for my life. Like you didn't get me through the bar exam. You didn't get me through the hell of law school and everything like that, just for me to like fizzle out here. And so it was at that time I said, well, maybe I should look at something that isn't in the law while I wait, for a law job to, hire me or at least give me an interview. I was like, if I get an interview, I can get my foot in there and, do it. And so I saw an ad for wine school to become a sommelier. And at that point, I had already loved culinary, but my family was not for that. They were like, you have two choices. You'll be a doctor or you'll be a lawyer. Like, those are your two choices. So I was like, I'm horrible at math and I don't like germs. So I guess I'm going to be a lawyer. And I saw the ad for wine school and I was like, you know what? Something just felt right. And I felt this just electricity go through my body. Like, you need to do this. You need to explore this. So I kind of started watching. There were some somm movies on TV about what sommeliers do. And the first thing that struck me was that they wear suits. They look like little lawyers. So I was like, I don't even have to change my outfits. Like, I have the attire to be a sommelier. And so then I realized how hard it was. And I'm like, this is great too, because this is a challenge. This is going to be, this is going to be tough. It's not going to be easy. I'm not just going to fall into this. So I applied for the wine school. It's out in California and I'm in Tampa and I have a rental house and I have a marriage that is completely disintegrating. And I'm just like, what are you going to do? And so I applied for it, but I didn't pay the money or anything like that at the time. And then my husband at the time, he came back and I told him about it. And at this point, he had also quit his dream job and was becoming a professional poker player. So he wasn't working really either. So I'm like, hey, how about we restart in California and we do this together? And he looked at me and he told me, no, if you go there, you go alone. So it really put me in this crazy place because I felt like I should be there. But then I had everything in my personal life at the time telling me you can't go. So about 4 weeks later, the airplane wheels touched down in San Francisco. I was a divorcing single woman headed to wine school. And I had my first shock, which was California rent. So I only had like $18,000 total in my bank account. I still had to pay back in Tampa. And now I was trying to pay for Airbnbs and finding rentals so that I could go to wine school. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to make it work, but I have to work immediately. So I had no experience in the culinary world. So I could only get jobs as either like bar backs, wine clerk, like overnight stocking wine in liquor stores. And if I was lucky, somebody would consider me for a waitressing gig. And I was like, okay, those will work. So I'm sitting in wine school and I'm working 2 jobs right off the bat. I found 2 jobs. I said, I don't know where they are. I'll show up. I'll be there. So I'm doing that every single day. And then it comes time for the test, the sommelier exam. There's 4 levels. You have to pass the first 2 in order to be considered a certified sommelier and to be able to get work. And at the point they said only 20% of people are passing. So I was like, this is it, because I've given up everything in my life to pursue this new dream that I have. And the fail rate is so high. And I knew I had all these eyes back in Florida and my family and stuff looking at me kind of like, is she crazy? Is she going to fail? What's going to happen? Is she going to come back to Florida with her tail tucked between her legs and realize she should be a lawyer and never have left? Other people were like, oh, she's having a midlife crisis. I was like, I'm only 30. What are you talking about? But, everybody had their opinions. And the only opinion at the end of the day that mattered was mine, because I knew that this was my life. And I also knew that this was my shot to do something great for myself, which I hadn't done maybe my whole life. I just hadn't done. I was always trying to please other people and look good and do the things that I thought, would be bring in status and stuff like that. So I get to the exam, and it's a room. There's like 30 of us in the room, and the master sommeliers come out, and they said, well, as expected, only 5 people passed. And so my heart is just sinking at this point, because you have to wait 90 days before you can retake any of the exams. And I couldn't wait 90 days because I didn't have 90-day money. So yeah, so I was like, no, like I have to be called. Like my name has to be one of those 5. And so they called the first, the second, and then finally the third, and they weren't my name. And I just started panicking, but I was there. And then they called the 4th name, and it was mine. And I got down on my knees. I had no shame in my game, because I don't know anybody else's story in that room that day, but I knew mine, and I knew what this meant for me and where I was going in my career. So they called my name, and then right after that, I started working in Napa Valley. And that was the most beautiful moment ever. I would walk through the vineyards. I'd park my car, and I would walk through the vineyards of Opus One in order to get to the winery where I worked. And it felt good. And every day, just like the sun coming down, hearing the dirt crunch under my feet, I knew that I had done the right thing for myself. At this time, I'm also looking like, what am I going to do? I'm still a young woman, and what's going to happen? So I worked there for about 7 or 8 months. And then the owner of the winery, he announced that he was going to be selling it off because he was in ill health and he was most likely going to pass. And so that just put me in a huge spin, because I loved my job and I was so happy there. And now all of a sudden I'm facing that this job is about to be taken away from you, because the new owners, they already have their own staff. And so I started applying everywhere. And one of my friends told me, why don't you start looking at hotels, because hotels have wine programs. And I was like, oh, I didn't think about that. I just thought restaurants, wineries, that's where I have to be. So I applied to the Marriott in San Diego, and they said, come on down for an interview. I drove all the way from Napa, all the way down there. I was so excited. I interviewed, they called me the next day. They said, we'd like you to start. When can you start? The cool thing about the Marriott is that if you work at their properties, and, they have the Ritz-Carlton, they have a bunch of different properties, that once you work there, you can transfer to any property in the world that is looking for your field, and wine is in every single place. So at night, I would just sit there. I just rented an apartment in San Diego. And at night, I would sit in bed and I would just look at their brochure of all the places that I could work. And at this point, I was like, I'm never getting married again. I'm never having kids. I'm just going to go out there and, just live my best life by myself. I'm never doing this at all. And so my first day of work, I started, everything was good. The second week that I was there, a bunch of Navy guys came in, and they had just come off a ship. And so, of course, all the ladies were all like, ooh, oh, this is going to be a great night. And so anyway, then the next thing I know, I meet my husband, my current husband. Yes. So my whole thing about being single and being this wine girl traveling the world, it ended very quickly. I think I had all of 6 days. So that was it. It was over. And we got engaged 2 weeks later, which is like a running Navy joke. I didn't know that if you meet a man off the ship, you're going to be married in 2 weeks. Well, we were engaged, so we took it slow. But anyway, so then all of a sudden I'm thrown back into being married and having, the talks about having a family, something I never thought that I would have and that I could have in my career. And so then, we got married, and then we decided that we were going to start our family. So fast forward, now I'm on maternity leave with a newborn, And I'm antsy again because now I'm just trapped in the house and I'm like, oh, this is boring. I don't like this. I'm definitely not a housewife. And so anyway, then I was talking to my dad just about things like I could do. And at this time, I started doing some online legal work because I wanted to bring income in. I didn't want to just like sit there. And there's so much like doc review and online legal work you can do and contracting and reading stuff that if you really didn't want to leave your home and still practice law, you can do. And that was a field that I didn't know about. I thought you had to go into the office, you had to go to court, you had to do this, and you don't. So that was something that was really beautiful. I was able to do in the mornings while I took care of my kid. And then my dad was like, I always wanted to have a barbecue restaurant. That was one of my dreams. So we started talking about that. And then we realized neither one of us knew how to like run a restaurant, and neither one of us knew how to cook barbecue that like the masses would like. We cook for ourselves. So, come on. So then I started watching barbecue shows on TV, and they started talking about competition barbecue. But once again, high stakes. I was like, and there's lots of trash talking, which I love to do. So I was like, oh, this is right up my alley. I'm going to do competition barbecue. How awesome is this? And then we can see if our recipe is good or if it's bad. And then the world will tell us, how our food is. So I signed up for a ton of competitions, and I had never even used a stick burning grill. So you have smokers, which you feed the fire, and then the smoke actually is seasoning and heating your food. And then you have grills, which is like when you're doing hamburgers or steaks, it's like live fire coming up through, hitting the meat. So I didn't really have the stick burner side down because we didn't grow up with that. I had a gas grill, and I might have had like a little Weber charcoal grill, but that was it. So I bought a smoker. It was cheap. It was awful. I had to put it together. Surprisingly, I put it together where it could last, it could stand. It was kind of like this, but it worked. I had all these extra pieces. I don't know why, but so anyway, so I started trying to learn fire management. I blew up everything. I burnt a tree in the backyard. I burnt a sun canopy that was over the backyard. I smoked out neighbors. There was an Airbnb behind me of British people on a holiday for Halloween. And I lit a bonfire because I didn't understand fire management, and it went out of control. And I heard them coughing and gagging. And I was just like, oh my God, I can't barbecue. I'm clearly not meant for this. And I felt really defeated. So I went to one of my friends and I said, hey, how do I start fires? And he was like, you need to go to barbecue school. And I was like, there's a school for this? Are you kidding me? He's like, yeah, you need to go to barbecue school. So I found a barbecue school from one of the guys that was on TV named Harry Sue in California. And he's like, yeah, come to my house. We're having a class and you'll be fine. The whole drive up to LA from San Diego, I was so scared. At this point, I felt like an imposter. And I'm like, if it was a law thing, I'd be fine. Like, I know how to be a lawyer, but I'm going up in here with all these pit masters. And if they're like the ones I saw on TV, I have no street cred. This is terrible. And I walked up there and I was like, I'm just going to kind of hang back and be silent and see what's up. And then all of a sudden, like, as soon as I rounded the corner, there was the guy from television standing right there. And he's like, oh, you're Erica? Like, come on up. And so I was the only female in the room. And so that added to my intimidation because I was like, oh God, and I don't know how to barbecue. This is going to be a disaster. And they're all going to know I'm a fraud. Oh my gosh. But so I was really quiet. And then he went around and he was like, what's your barbecue name? Everybody has a barbecue name. And so I had one, but I'd never said it out loud because I was like, you have to earn that. You have to do some competitions first, and then you say who you are. And so he got to me and he was like, you do competition barbecue. You're signed up. What's your barbecue name? And so all eyes were on me, and I jumped up and I said, I'm Blue Smoke Blaire. I'm Blue Smoke Blaire's barbecue. And it was like the universe opened. And I felt at that moment that I had breathed life into whatever this was about to become, whatever new journey this was about to become. I had breathed life into that. And then all of a sudden the pandemic hit. So now we're all locked in the house. And so I didn't have an outlet. I was barbecuing every day with everything I learned, just practicing, but I didn't really have an outlet, and I couldn't go to competitions. And that was like a really big setback because I had my heart set on becoming a competition pitmaster, but I couldn't compete. So I turned to social media. I turned to Instagram, And I started barbecuing, and it was terrible. I've deleted almost every photo that I've ever put up from those days because I don't want anybody to ever link those back to me. But I would go up there and I would post my food, and I would use the hashtags, and I would follow other people that barbecued, and I would ask them questions. And all of a sudden I realized that social media is its own mentorship. It's its own network. And they were actually telling me what to do, how to fix what I was doing. They could look at a picture and tell me if I cut my brisket wrong, if I overcooked my chicken, and all of this was on social media. And so I got this group of mentors that I knew they're out cooking right now. We're each doing a brisket. So we're going to be outside all night, drinking beers, drinking wine, bourbon, and it's going to be 12 hours. So I know they're attached to their phone. They know I'm attached to my phone. So I was able to just like text and message those mentors, this whole new set of mentors. I was able to have constant communication with them. And then one day I didn't know how to check messaging on Instagram. I didn't know that there's like if they're not your friends versus your friends, there was different mailboxes. So I only checked the one mailbox. And then one day I checked the second mailbox, and I saw a DM from a casting director who said they were from Food Network, and they were going to be doing a barbecue show right after the pandemic, and they wanted me to try out for it. I thought it was a scam. Because they said use Skype, and I was like, nobody uses Skype. Like, come on, now you're gonna want my social security number next, whatever. So I took a screenshot and I sent it in a group text with some of my barbecue friends, and they said, no, that's real. We've worked with them before. Call her and see if it's not too late for you to do it. And so at this point, I'm panicking. I think I just missed a huge opportunity, and I'm so worried. So I hit her up. I don't hear anything for a few days, and then she hits me back, and we start doing the whole interview process for this little barbecue show, which is what she said. She did not tell me what it really was. She said it was just going to be some backyard barbecue, pit masters, just like that. She didn't tell me what it was, or I never would have went for it. But so anyway, so then all of a sudden I didn't hear anything back for a whole year. And I was a little defeated about that, but I was like, whoa, I was on their radar. Like that means I'm still on their radar. That was an opportunity. So at that time, barbecue competitions started coming back online. So I started going out to barbecue competitions. I signed up for my first one. It was in Kentucky. I was in Ohio at the time. And so I went all by myself, and I loaded up a trailer. I did everything. I drove 7 hours down to Luverne, Kentucky, and I drove into this barbecue competition. I didn't know that you're supposed to have a team with you because there's so much stuff to do, but it was just me. And so I got there, and after first about 50 people asking me if I was lost, then I was like, no, I'm here to compete. I'm Blue Smoke Blaire, and they're just like, oh God. So they put me up front, and the guy goes, I'm putting you up front so I can keep my eye on you. And I thought that was being nice. I didn't know it was because they didn't want me messing with the real barbecue people and like ruining their event. So I had no idea, but I was like, oh, he's so sweet. Look, he's putting me right up front. And so then they were like, where's your team? And I was like, it's just me. I don't have a team. And so they were just like, look, whatever happens, don't feel bad and don't judge yourself about what's going to happen to you over these next 2 days. You just like learn everything you can and have a good time. So I was just like, it's cooking. How hard is this going to be? And then all of a sudden it was like trimming and prepping. And I just had like a little lantern, a little Coleman lantern. And it's 1 a.m. and I'm scraping chicken skins all by myself, like in the night and stuff. And then all of a sudden I'm thinking, oh, turn in is every 30 minutes. You have to not only like trim and make your meat beautiful, but make your competition box, put it in there, and then run it to the judges. And then you have to come back and you have to do that 4 times. That's why people have a team. And it was just me. And so all of a sudden this guy came over in the middle of the night, and he was like, hey, I don't want to step on your feet or anything, but would you mind if I kind of tell you how we do things here? And I was like, please do. And I didn't know this is yet another mentor. And he sat with me throughout almost all night until the sun came up, showing me and telling me how barbecue competitions work, how you trim your meat, how you actually make turn-in boxes. He gave me years of wisdom in this new field that I was in, even though he was a competitor, even though like he's going against me to get the money. He still sat and he told me everything he could so that I didn't fail. And he said, I want you, whatever your story is, I don't know who you are, but whatever your journey is, whatever brought you here, he's like, I want to see you succeed. And that was really powerful for me because you don't really get that in the legal field. You get a lot of people that are like, oh, you can succeed as long as I'm on top, or you get people that'll just cut your legs out from underneath you. Like, you never know. It's very rare that you find someone who is your competition, but that will still help you. And that was something that I found is very common in the barbecue world and in, just like the competition world in general. So that was really sweet. That was really sweet of him. So I did that. And then the next, Food Network called about a month later and they said, hey, we're going to fly you down to Austin, Texas. Are you available? And I was like, yeah, I'm available. Fly me down. And they're like, you'll be here for a few weeks and you're not on the show. But if we determine that you're going to be on the show, then we're going to put you on there and you'll get to stay. You'll have your own hotel room. When they said I was going to have my own hotel room, that's when I was like, I'm sold. I don't care if I'm on the show or not. Like, not sleeping with little baby feet in my back, like, and a dog and a husband. Like, no, I want the free hotel stay in Texas. That's great. So I ended up going down there and then they told me, you're on the show. So we're going to pick you up in the morning and you're going to go on set. And so I kind of had like a little inkling what was about to happen because I met some of the other people that were on there and they were like, no, this show has Bobby Flay and Michael Simon's going to be there and all these people are going to be there. And I was like, okay, this is a big deal. So at that point I said, as long as I just don't go home first, it'll be a win. Like, I'm probably not going to win this thing. All the other people that were out there were insane legacies in barbecue and stuff like that. But I went out there was no like introduction really or anything. There was like a set walkthrough and then they were like, you stand here. And then the next thing you know, like 12 cameras per person, they just come at you and they're within like 4 inches of your face. And so for all the weeks, they're just 4 inches within your face. They're on top of you. They're behind you. So they're just videotaping and recording everything you do. And so that was like a really surreal kind of thing because I didn't expect that. You don't see that on the shows. So I didn't know it was going to be like that. And so at this point, I'm starting to kind of see how the show is going. And I was getting my butt kicked in the beginning. I'm not going to lie. It was not pretty. But then all of a sudden I realized I can use my lawyer skills. I can use my ability to analyze situations that I might be able to be a real contender here. And so I just stopped panicking and I just started analyzing as a lawyer would. Everybody, everything, what the judges were saying, what they were saying about the food. And I was just taking those mental notes like a lawyer does. And then all of a sudden, when I flipped that switch and started acting like a lawyer, all of a sudden I started winning. Like every single week I was on top. I was winning. And I was just like, oh my God, thank you. Like those little skills that I had in the courtroom, those little skills that I learned in moot court and that I learned in my clinics in law school, they're actually saving me right now on something that I really want, that I really need to happen for me. And so I kept doing that and I kept making sure I was calm and I kept making sure that I was aware of everything that goes on the same way you do when you're in a trial. I mean, it's not just one person doing something. You have to be aware of everybody that's in that room and you have to be aware of your face and how you're presenting yourself, your body language. And so it was those things, those skills that I used and I ended up winning. And it was just like, whoa, girl, this journey has been insane. Oh my God. And I walked off that stage as the champion and it felt surreal, but I was like, no, I earned this. I earned this because I put in the work and I took the risks. And that's still exactly what I'm doing today. I'm still taking the risks. I go out there. I just came back from Memphis in May and I'm the world champion in both the brisket category and the ribs. And it's that being calm and being able to still think analytically that saves you in those situations that are high stress. And that's something that's very unique to people who are lawyers. And then I found out that also translates to other businesses. So I have my own barbecue sauce, my own rubs. I do tons of appearances everywhere where I'm thrown in situations, filming pilots and stuff for Food Network, doing one for A&E. But the thing about it is like, I still rely on my lawyer skills to get me through like the actual course of events. Like, yes, I cook my butt off. I do all that, but it's the lawyer skills that help you actually seal the deal. And that's something that I just, every single day, I'm like, okay, thank you. It meant something. It was worth something. And these skills are coming up time and time again, and they're saving me. And I think one of the biggest things, which we talked about earlier, was your ability to pivot. As a lawyer, you have to be able to pivot. When something doesn't work, you cannot be so married to it that you will run that ship into the ground. And that expands out to your career and your trajectory in your life and where you want to go in the world. Because if you can't pivot and adapt to horrible situations or good situations, if you can't be able to switch on a dime and have another plan, a backup to a backup to a backup, you will lose out on so many things in this world, especially career opportunities or opportunities to go into entrepreneurship or to change your career. If you get so entrenched in one way of thinking and one mindset, and you put those blinders on, you won't be able to see what blessings might actually be out there for you. And so that's one of the big things that still, even to this day, I always say, okay, I'm really into this, but what else is out there that's like hanging out on the fringe that might be something for me, that might be an undiscovered blessing that I need to go pursue, and I need to go find out if it's something that is actually good for me or not. And I think the biggest thing in my career right now is just saying yes. Say yes to things. Like, you're not going to start out on top. It's very rare that you start out on top. Like, you really do start from the bottom, or in my case, like under the bottom, but like, it really is about your tenacity. And, you and I talked about this, just the fact that you are in law school, that you are pursuing law, that you are a lawyer, like, you have in you. And I believe one day they're going to find out there's some DNA sequencing that we lawyers all have, but we have tenacity. And we voluntarily sign up for going against the odds and proving people wrong and going headfirst into battle. And those traits, you would not believe how rare they are. Like, when you're in a room with lawyers all day, or you're in, the courtroom or the office, you can kind of get blind to those things because everybody has them. But when you step outside of the courtroom, you will be amazed at how your willpower, your determination, your attention to detail, and your tenacity will get you so far, because people just aren't used to that breed of people that we as lawyers are. And it turns out, if you do it the right way, it is very successful and it's very rewarding. And I've had a lot of my friends and a lot of people who are attorneys that are saying, well, I don't know, I went to law school, I've been working forever, and I don't think that I could change my career right now. There's, I've always had this little dream about, doing this little side business, and I like doing this on the weekends, but I don't think that I'll be able to do it. Well, if you tell yourself no, then the world is going to tell you no too. And there is a difference between a passion and a hobby. And that's something that you have to discover. If you're just doing something every once in a while, and then, it's cool, it was a good stress relief, a good outlet, it was fun for that moment, that's probably not a passion. That's probably a hobby. But if you have something that's just gnawing at you, that keeps you up sometimes at night, that you find yourself, on YouTube or somewhere researching, going down the rabbit hole, watching other people do something that you like to do too, you deserve and you owe it to yourself to explore that, because that is a passion, and that passion can lead to an industry, which can lead to an empire, which can lead you to places that you never thought that you would go as a lawyer. And a lot of people, they'll tell themselves no, they'll tell themselves all the reasons why they can't do it. I have kids, I don't have a lot of money, I have student loans, I have this. If it is your passion and it's where you want to see yourself, you will make it work. Like, I worked 3 jobs. I had a name tag on, I had people laughing that knew, they're like, oh, she's working at a liquor store, like making fun of me. But I knew that was taking me the steps that I needed to get the credentials I needed to go for my bigger dreams, to go on that platform that I needed to be on. And if it is your passion and you're serious about it, you will take those blows, you will take those insults, and they will just fuel you to do better, because you know where you're headed and where you want to be. And nobody is going to be able to stop you, and nobody's going to be able to make fun of you. If somebody can make fun of you or say something that would make you actually give up or stop doing what you think it is you're supposed to be doing, then that wasn't a passion and that's not your destiny. Because when you cradle something so dear to your heart, that is your passion, that is your destiny, like you will not let anybody step in between it. You will guard that thing like a mother cub. You will battle to the death for that, because that is your baby. And that is that song that's in your heart. That's the you. And that's the you you're trying to be. So I always tell people, if you don't believe in yourself enough to do something, try it out as a hobby first. See if it's just something that, you want to do weekend warrior style, or if it is a true passion. But you can straddle the lane. I mean, you don't have to just wake up tomorrow and say, that's it, I'm starting, this dairy farm that I always wanted to start, and I'm quitting the law right away. Like, no, the beauty is you can straddle lanes. There's not just one traditional legal field. You can do stuff part-time. You can do things where you won't feel the financial brunt of your decision to jump ship. And then you can grow your new side thing until it gets its own legs, and it can take you out of the law if that's what you want to do, or it can take you where you want to go. And I think that that's really important, because it stops a lot of people. They could just get too scared.
Did you ever have second thoughts, during your transition? Did you ever think, oh goodness, I think I just want to go back to being a lawyer? It was so much easier.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel like when I was waiting for my name to be called at the sommelier exams, I was definitely like, oh man, how did I put myself in this situation? Maybe I shouldn't, maybe I went too far. And then the next time is when I was on the set at Food Network, and I saw Rodney Scott come walking through the hotel lobby, and I knew who he was from Netflix. And so I'm like, oh my God, is he a competitor here? Because then I need to go home. Like, I just sold a wolf ticket that I can't cash. Like, I need to go home immediately. And I think those were the two times where I almost doubted myself, but I kept going forward. I've never had anything happen to me where I said, that's it, I quit. I'm going to pack up my bags and I'm going to go home, and I'm never going to do this again. I have been kicked down, had tire tracks across my back, skid into the gutter. And I just got back up and said, "Ooh, that was rough."
So with those setbacks that you did experience, I mean, what kept you going? What was in the back of your mind?
Well, basically for me, it was the ledge I was standing on was already crumbling. So I had no choice but to jump forward. So I was like, I'm just going to ride it out. I'm going to ride it out and see what happens. And then I think another really big thing that I've always had for myself is I was like, no matter what happens right now, I can always go back to being a lawyer. So I'm always going to be able to feed myself. I'm always going to be able to take care of myself and my family. Even if everything crumbles tomorrow, I can always go back to being a lawyer. So that gave me a lot of confidence, because it wasn't like I didn't have another option. And I think that that's like really important to realize, like, if you hang up, and quit practicing for X amount of years, you can always go back. Yep. So
now, did you keep any mentors from your legal career?
I have some friends. I didn't really keep any of my legal mentors. Like, we still like talk on, Instagram and stuff like that every once in a while, but I didn't really keep anybody except for my first job when I was an intern at the public defender's office. John Miguel, I don't know if you know him, but he's part of P.A.D. He actually came out to my winery that I was working at with his wife, and they sat down, and it was so good because I was all alone, and it was so good to have, like, it felt like family to have him there. And I was just like talking to him, and I hadn't told him at the time that I was like going through this divorce or anything like that. And so he was just like talking to me and like giving me so much encouragement. And I was just like, oh my God, the days I used to like go in his office as an intern and be like, what should I be looking up? Like, I was atrocious as an intern, but yeah, he still was like, no, girl, you're going to make it. Like, it's okay. Like, everybody starts somewhere. You got to learn. And he was probably one of the very few attorney bosses or something I had that never, ever made me feel bad for like having shortcomings or learning. Like, he never was like, oh, you didn't know that, you didn't know this, your motion is terrible. He was never like that. He was always encouraging. And so he was one of the people that I always kept on my radar, because he was a true leader.
Like, that's a true leader. You don't go around burning out other people's candles to make you shine brighter. You let everybody rise with you. And I saw that he really practiced what he preached. I had a ton of other bosses that were not that good. And I was just like, oh, well, if that's what being at the top is, if that's what being successful is, I don't want it. Like, I quit. I'll go work at Walmart. Like, I was like, no. I mean, I met great people. I have tons of attorney friends and like my law school friends and stuff like that. But then I met a lot of people like senior attorneys and stuff like that, that we just weren't on the same vibe level. And I was just like, like, is that what life is all about? Is that what this is all about? Because I don't want any part of that. Like, I didn't work this hard to be that miserable, So, but also that's a mentor. You can have negative mentors too. You can have people show you how not to be, you can learn what you shouldn't do. And I always do that. I always take into how somebody has made me felt, how somebody has made me feel, how somebody talks to other people, how somebody treats other people. And then I'm like, okay, these are the things that I would do, or these are the things I wouldn't do. And I always said, even, if I had stayed practicing as an attorney my whole career, I was like, I will never, ever put another attorney down. I will never try to invalidate another lawyer or a law student or an intern or anything. I was like, because that is not my vibe level. And I don't know if that's like the old school way, like tough love, break them down to build them up or whatever. But I was like, that's not me. And even out here in the barbecue world, like, it's highly competitive, but everybody, like, I'm like, we're family, we're going to get through this together, especially the other women in barbecue. Like, we're a sisterhood. And even though we are neck and neck competitors on everything, at the end of the day, we're still a sisterhood. And if we're competing and somebody's grill goes down, or somebody doesn't have bags of charcoal, or something's happening, or their smoker caught fire, like, we stop what we're doing and we run over and we help our sister. And that's barbecue love.
Yeah.
So,
now, have you found, since business does not have the same barrier to entry that becoming a licensed lawyer does.
Oh, yeah.
You spoke earlier about just being able to find mentors on social media, and I found that to be somewhat true as well. Have you found that it is generally easier to find mentors who are willing to talk to you and work with you, being an entrepreneur and in the business that you're in?
Yes. So we like to say, like, real recognizes real. And when you see somebody that's out there and they're starting up their business, or they're just asking a million questions because they're thinking about making that leap, like, you just surround that person, you give them love, you give them resources, and you try to uplift them so that they make it. And that's something that I found out. I mean, I go on LinkedIn and I talk to people, that are doing things that I find interesting. I'm like, hey, I have a question. My name's Erica, but I just wanted to know this. I saw you did something like this, and like, how do you get there? And so that's something that's really special, is that you can find when you're trying to get out in business, when you're trying to do a career change, you can find people that want to help you. You do need to be careful because there are tons of scammers out there. If anybody starts trying to like get money out of you to help you, they're not trying to help you. And it can be very, very like sneaky and subtle. But when you're going out into a new field, like, just be aware of that, just be aware that it shouldn't be that way. Like, advice is free. So when you're asking, somebody else in a field that you admire or that you're into, if all of a sudden they're like, oh, buy this, buy that, I'm selling this or I'm selling that, be very wary, because they're probably not trying to help you.
So how did you know, or at what point in your transition from law to business did you know, wow, I have made it and I definitely picked the right thing to pursue? How did you know?
Well, I think winning Food Network, I was like, okay, I'm in the right spot. This is going to work out for me. This is really good. I felt that when it happened. I kind of knew on the last day, like, I just like visceral over my body. I had a feeling like things were going to go my way. Like, I was like, maybe I'll come in second, but maybe I'll win the whole thing. And then afterwards, like, Bobby Flay came up and he was just like hugging me, and he was like, you're scrappy. Like, girl, you are scrappy. Like, you took the blows. He's like, you did this. And he always, during the whole show, he would only refer to me as counselor. So, and so he's like, counselor, like, you kicked butt. He's like, you had so much. He's like, your food was great. He's like, but what was better was your grit and your determination. He was like, you took some serious blows. And he's like, you got what it takes. And the sweetest thing he said to me, like right before we were all separating, he was like, you got to stay in power. Like, you got to stay in power, girl. And that just meant a lot, because here's somebody who's probably gone through so much in his own life. And he's telling me, like, you're going to do this and you're going to do well. And he didn't have to do that, but it did everything for just my whole journey. It made it like that big circle, that big donut. I was just like, oh my gosh, okay. Like, this is the real deal. Okay. And so I think that's the point when I really felt like I made it. And then I had to like keep it a secret for like, I think it was like 5 months. That was killing me. But so I used my lawyer skills. I just pretended like they were a client and everything was confidential.
So can you tell us what's in the works right now that you can actually share?
Oh yeah, no, I'm heading to Louisiana because we're filming another pilot for Food Network. So that's really cool. And I'm really excited about that. But the thing is like, you film a bunch of pilots, you don't know which one's going to stick. It's a numbers game. So I'm excited for the trip. I really hope it sticks, but we're worried about the weather right now because it's all outside, of course. That's the downfall of barbecue. But I'm really excited about that. And then I'm also a sponsor at the World Food Championships in Dallas, which I'm super stoked about.
I plan to attend.
I hope you do. I really hope you do. But I'm excited because now I have this whole new network of chefs that own restaurants. And that's something I've never done. I've never owned a restaurant. I don't know. I'm 50-50 on owning a restaurant. Right now, I travel so much. Oh gosh, I didn't even tell you. I got picked up to be the pit master for NASCAR. So that's going to be fun. That's going to be fun. But I think eventually I'm going to shift and I want to kind of like stay home more and have like a new iteration of what Blue Smoke Blaire is going to do. And so, I'm outside, I'm here on my ranch in Texas, and we are in the process of building a barbecue school, which is really cool because I always say like, you have to teach others what you know. And so this is going to be the real opportunity to try and like maybe find that Erica that's out there that's like, hey, I'm a new mom and I just did this and I want to learn barbecue, and I really want to get, more non-traditional people into barbecue. So we're building a big barbecue school here on the ranch. And hopefully we'll just be able to like teach tons of people and give them the confidence behind the grill, especially women. So if you can operate an oven, you can operate a grill. Like an oven is a lot more complex and like time consuming than a grill is. I mean, I turn my grill on, I throw the meat on, and then I'm usually out here like drinking bourbon and pretending I'm busy so that I don't have to like do chores. So if you can operate an oven, you can become a pit master. It's going to be a lot easier.
Yeah. Well, we actually just got what I think is a great question. Very good transition. What advice would you give lawyers who want to use their skills in a non-traditional way if they're not entirely sure what their passion is, but they know it's no longer the law?
Yeah, that's actually amazing. I mean, you're going to come to that fork in the road for your career and just test things out. Test everything out that you think you might be interested into. I mean, at one point I was like, I'm going to make jewelry. I'm going to do pottery. Like, test everything out. You owe it to yourself to test everything out. Go enroll in some classes, start doing the thing that you might think you're interested in. And you'll quickly find out if it's something you want to do, or if you are like, that was fun, but I never want to do that again. Now I'm going to try something else. But you just go out there and we call it sampling, like career sampling. Just try little bites of everything that comes to you. Another thing that I do, I don't know, a lot of people, they might not be into this or whatever, but like either before I go to bed or early in the morning, before my kids get up, before my husband gets up, before I have to do farm chores, I have a little journal and I sit in silence and I just like write random things that pop into my head. And it's like a form of meditation. And I've come up with some really cool stuff that happened during those meditation sessions that then I have used out in like my barbecue career, my culinary career, because when you start writing things down, you start activating parts of your brain that want to actually get their voice out there, and you'll start finding things that are really creative. And you also will learn that as we lawyers, we like to control everything. But you'll find out through your writings, your subconscious plays a big role in that. You'll start finding out in your writings what your heart is really trying to tell you. And you'll end up getting the confidence to, it's very hard, and I understand this, to have put so much into becoming a lawyer, getting where you are, to think about the day where you just walk away from it, and not in retirement, but to actually just walk away from it. And that is terrifying. And I get that because I was there. And you have to sample enough things where you get confident enough to be willing to go out there and start your side hustle and start turning it into your main hustle and start talking to the people in the industry. Go on LinkedIn, start a whole separate page where you're just like stalking the people in the new career field that you want to emulate, that you want to be. Go on Instagram. It's the best place ever. I know I'm biased, but go on Instagram and start getting into groups, talking to people that do the thing that you might think you're interested in, so you can see where you want to go before you make that jump. Before you just, give everybody the bird and walk out of your office. Like, don't do it. Straddle lanes for a while, write in silence, meditate, and get that ego off of you so that you can be really clearly focused on what that song in your heart really is for your life and your career. Because whatever it is, that's your destiny, and you will be successful at it because that was imprinted on your DNA. That's why you have those dreams. That's why you keep having that little gnawing voice telling you it's time, start setting the foundation, and don't expect rapid changes. I mean, a slow burn still cooks the meat just the way a high sear does. So don't be like, okay, I have to quit tomorrow, I have to do this. No, let it simmer and let it work out its course. Because if anything that I learned in my life, a lot of these opportunities were not ready for me back when I was 30. I'm 39 right now. A lot of those opportunities were not there. I had to plot the slow burn. I had to work in the liquor store overnight. I had to work at the winery, the restaurant. I had to do those things for those years to get to the point where I could be like, here I am, I'm ready. It's time to soar. It's time to jump off that ledge and go. So don't be so scared that it's not happening for you right away, because it doesn't always happen right away. It's not the lottery. It's your life.
And we've discussed this a couple times, but as you continue to follow your passion, as you continue to build your business, the goals keep getting bigger. Much bigger. and I feel like in hearing you speak, that's also a pretty good indication that you are probably on the right path, which is once you've accomplished something, you want to accomplish the next thing that's even bigger and better in the same industry.
And that's how we all are, because we're lawyers. We are goal oriented. So your dreams, if you're in your passion, your dreams are only going to get bigger. And like the title of this whole, speech right now, it's investing in yourself. So one of the things that you and I talked about is like, a lot of times we put other people before us, and we think like you have to invest in other people. Like in the beginning, I invested in my first husband, and I put his dreams in front of mine and his goals and trying to get him where he was supposed to be. No, you have to invest in yourself. Everybody has to invest in themselves, because if you invest in yourself, you're going to make greatness all around. But if you always put other people in front of you and you always like cheerlead for them and push them to do their greatness while you're not actually cheering for your own greatness, you're doing a huge disservice. And it's not being selfish. It's not anything. Like, you have one life to live, and this is it right now, right here. So you have to invest in yourself, because nobody else is, and nobody else is going to. Because just like you, just like me, when I talk to people, I can spot people that have not invested in themselves, and they will never invest in themselves. And so I can't invest in them, because I'm like, at the soon as you hit a really bad crisis or an obstacle or something that seems insurmountable, you're going to crumble and you're going to retreat back to your safety. I'm not going to spend my resources trying to make you believe in yourself. And that's something that's hard to do, but it's discernment, and you'll figure it out and you'll do it. So be okay saying no. And this is something you and I talked about, like, be okay telling people no. You don't have to say yes and be the problem solver for everybody all the time. Like, say no, because there is a lot of power in no, and it's going to save you a lot of headaches and a lot of distractions that are actually just derailing you from where you're supposed to be. So learn to say no. The people that you say no to, if they leave and they never come back, well, I have a little secret for you. They weren't going to stick around anyway.
Yep.
So if you're scared that if you tell somebody no, that then they're not going to be your friend anymore, they're not going to do this, they're not really your friend, and they're not going to help you out. They're just mining you for what you can give to them. So you got to cut loose the dead weight, okay? Or the ship will not float to your destiny. And that's the truth. That's the hard truth that people don't want to talk about, but it's true. You got to trim the fat.
Yep. So got two more questions. These are going to be easy ones. The first one is, how many years did you practice law before switching to your passion career?
I started practicing law in 2009, and then I got out of it officially, where I'm like not doing anything, in 2020.
Wow, that long. Okay. Now, do you think, and this is a follow-up question to that, do you think that ability to transition over that period of time was actually beneficial for you?
Yes. So first of all, I needed to mature. I needed to get some life experience. You come out of law school, you're like 23, 24. So I left my parents' house, went to law school, then all of a sudden, became this lawyer, whatever, but I was still very immature. So, and I was still trying to find myself and who I was. And I was down in Miami. So I had a lot of like fun things that distracted me and definitely encouraged me not to be mature. But I needed that time to grow up. I needed to have the adversity that I experienced in my life. I needed to become strong in my own voice and to be able to stand on my own 2 feet and not think that like somebody was magically going to come save me, or it was all, I needed to know that like I could crash and burn and still get back up. And that took years, because I look back at myself as like a 24-year-old and I'm like, I wouldn't have hung out with that girl. Like, oh my God, no, I would never have hung out with that girl. She was, she was whatever she was, running around South Beach. So it was one of those things that I really needed to mature, and I needed to figure out like laser focus on like who I really wanted to be and what kind of legacy I wanted to leave. And also it took that long to like really start understanding how the world works, especially business. I needed to be working under people and seeing how to interact with people from different personalities, and, being able to read people quickly and not taking everybody at face value. I'm from a farm town in Ohio. So, usually face value is what you are. You go down to a big city and people generally, they're not upfront with what they want or what they're trying to get from you. There was always like a motive or there was a reason. And I wasn't used to that. So that definitely, I needed those years to like get seasoned.
So in other words, it's never too late. It doesn't, you don't have to go straight out of law school and go start your own business.
No, never.
So my last question then, it's 7:59, and this is my own question I'm curious about. Do you negotiate any of your own contracts?
All of them.
Do you really?
I negotiate, I read through, and I handle all of my contracts. Like I have an agent, and they're just like, well, why are we doing this if you're gonna, and I'm like, no, I'm just assisting. I'm like, don't worry. I'm just let me send this DocHub document back to you. I just look at this, so they always laugh. They're like, well, can we send you everybody else's contracts too? Like if we don't have to pay our own in-house lawyers, like we'll just send it to you. So yeah, I will always, till the day I die, use my legal skills and what I learned in the courtroom to always help me survive and thrive on this new career. And that's something I'll never give up.
Well, thank you so much. I'm very happy to say we are ending right at 8 o'clock on the dot.
We're on time.
That's good. Yeah. Thank you so much, Erica. This has been a great presentation. So glad to have you as a member of the fraternity.
Thank you.
Thank you to everybody who attended. Thanks for your questions and participation. And with that, I will end it. I hope everyone has a great night.
Love you all. Bye.
Bye.